Fandoms, and somewhat equally so non-fans of specific characters, love the process of distilling a character down into memeable traits until those memes become what the character is known for. And memes are made from those memes by people uninvolved with the original material, which spreads the meme version of the image farther than the original. If it catches on, the meme of a meme becomes its own cultural beast, having completely metastasized into something barely representing anything to do with the original character at all. Normally this happens after a show or anime is popular, and the dissonance is mainly felt
was a fan of the internet. She never felt that safe in her own head. We both hate the news. That for the grace of God goes you. Smiling when I ask if she's bored yet. We wonder if we took it too far. Both taste confused. Darling, what am I to do? I like to think that I'm the only guy she'll see tonight. You can call me what you like, as long as you call me. And you could kiss the skin from our lips if it makes you feel good. I'm not sure if you want it, not sure if you need me to. And you can taste the bitter on every guy who talks to you. But you can't stay awake forever. No, you can't stay awake forever. Was a fan of the internet. She never felt that safe in her own head. We both hate the news. That for the grace of God goes you. Smiling when I ask if she's bored yet. We wonder if we took it too far. Both taste confused. Darling, what am I to do? I lie to think that I'm the only guy she'll see tonight. You can call me what you like, as long as you call me. And you could kiss the skin from my lips if it makes you feel good. I'm not sure if you want it, not sure if you need me to. And you can taste the bitter on every guy who talks to you. But you can't stay awake forever. No, you can't stay awake forever. And so I find myself in your mum's bedroom, fighting with the pink roller blinds. It's on pay-per-view. Just place your bets on who's lost their minds. You take a pirouette and a duvet set. You side with perfect pitch and with time. I'm not made for you, but what else is new? Well, she tells me that it's nothing. Oh really, you're just nothing. You could kiss the skin from my lips if it makes you feel good. I'm not sure if you want it, not sure if you need me to. And you can taste the bitter on every guy who talks to you. But you can't stay awake forever. No, you can't stay awake forever. This just in. I am a total fucking dumbass. And I've come to the uncomfortable conclusion that I'm gonna spend the rest of my life in a state of constant paranoia. Just let me follow you, and I'll proceed to bang my head on every doorway and door frame you see suitable for us to go through. And I've found that the road to happiness is paved with rows and rows of very tempting market places. I'm not paranoid, I'm a realist. I know you're gonna kill me. You could kiss the skin from my lips if it makes you feel good. I'm not sure if you want it, not sure if you need it to. And you could taste the bitter on every guy who talks to you. But you can't stay awake forever. Man, you can't stay awake forever. And you could kiss the skin from my lips if it makes you feel good. I'm not sure if you want it, I'm not sure if you need me to. And you could taste the bitter on every guy who talks to you. But you can't stay awake, you can't stay awake, you can't stay awake forever.
In 5,
Felt by people months or years. Fandoms, and somewhat equally so non-fans of specific characters, love the process of distilling a character down into memeable traits until those memes become what the character is known for. And memes are made from those memes by people uninvolved with the original material, which spreads the meme version of the image farther than the original. If it catches on, the meme of a meme becomes its own cultural beast, having completely metastasized into something barely representing anything to do with the original character at all. Normally this happens after a show or anime is popular, and the dissonance is mainly felt by people months or years down the line who are completely unaware of the cultural significance and get into the material with some of those meme expectations only to find a dissonance in the gap and possibly a confusion from it. Like this quote from a Fujimoto article where he confirms Makima owned a... This was perpetuated as a Fujimoto article where he confirms Makima owned a... This was perpetuated as a fun fact repeatedly, but it's totally made up. It's just a joke that somebody put together. Fujimoto never said this. The original image was just a meme made by someone to look like it was from a quoted article, and that was perpetuated as a joke because of Makima being seen as a Dom-type character. The thing is, though, people thought it was real, and it fueled the community into spiraling further in that direction, despite the fact that Makima herself is cold and sexless throughout the story, only using her features as a means to control people to her other ends. You also see this nearly every time a shipping community grabs momentum. People invested in certain types of ships hear one is canon and check out the original material by enjoying the fan material first, and are then sometimes shocked at the very little engagement between the characters, or maybe even disappointed in such. Chainsaw Man is different, though. Instead of a lot of separate, smaller groups or individuals trickling in over time to discover the Flanderization and meet mild confusion, the Flanderization has already happened before the anime even came out, with people excitedly sharing fan art and memes and dances and individual edited panels fueling a certain idea, sometimes only for the tidal wave of interested new people to the series to be swept up in the community experience and then experience the character for the first time. People didn't react well. Post after for the first time. People didn't react well. Post after post of Chainsaw Man anime onlys with thousands of likes react well. Post after post of Chainsaw Man anime onlys with thousands of likes swept Twitter, decrying Kobeni for being annoying and useless, and you know what? I can sympathize. I thought Kobeni was cute. But I didn't like her character immediately. The fact that she, in my eyes, would so quickly betray a member of her own team was what I didn't like. And to be fair, most of what people love Kobeni for hasn't been adapted yet, and a lot of it probably won't be in the first season. What I really want to talk about today, though, is this memification. The sexual bimboification of Kobeni is a really weird case, specifically because of who her character is. A girl forced to give up on her dreams by a controlling, abusive family who value her like chattel, making it hard. Fandoms, and somewhat equally so non-fans of specific characters, love the process of distilling a character down into memeable traits until those memes become what the character is known for. And memes are made from those memes by people uninvolved with the original material, which spreads the meme version of the image farther than the original. If it catches on, the meme of a meme becomes its own cultural beast, having completely metastasized into something barely representing anything to do with the original character at all. Normally this happens after a show or anime is popular, and the dissonance is mainly felt by people months or years down the line who are completely unaware of the cultural significance and get into the material with some of those meme expectations only to find a dissonance in the gap and possibly a confusion from it. Like this quote from a Fujimoto article where he confirms Makima owned a... This was perpetuated as a fun fact repeatedly, but it's totally made up. It's just a joke that somebody put together. Fujimoto never said this. The original image was just a meme made by someone to look like it was from a quoted article, and that was perpetuated as a joke because of Makima being seen as a Dom-type character. The thing is, though, people thought it was real, and it fueled the community into spiraling further in that direction, despite the fact that Makima herself is cold and sexless throughout the story, only using her features as a means to control people to her other ends. You also see this nearly every time a shipping community grabs momentum. People invested in certain types of ships hear one is canon and check out the original material by enjoying the fan material first, and are then sometimes shocked at the very little engagement between the characters, or maybe even disappointed in such. Chainsaw Man is different, though. Instead of a lot of separate, smaller groups or individuals trickling in over time to discover the Flanderization and meet mild confusion, the Flanderization has already happened before the anime even came out, with people excitedly sharing fan art and memes and dances and individual edited panels fueling a certain idea only for the tidal wave of interested new people to the series to be swept up in the community experience and then experience the character for the first time. People didn't react well. Post after post of Chainsaw Man anime onlys with thousands of likes swept Twitter decrying Kobeni for being annoying and useless, and you know what? I can sympathize. I thought Kobeni was cute, but I didn't like her character immediately. The fact that she, in my eyes, would so quickly betray a member of her own team was what I didn't like. And to be fair, most of what people love Kobeni for hasn't been adapted yet, and a lot of it probably won't be in the first season. What I really want to talk about today, though, is this memification. The sexual bimboification of Kobeni is a really weird case, specifically because of who her character is. A girl forced to give up on her dreams by a controlling, abusive family who value her like chattel, making it hard to truly ever escape them. They offered her to either risk her life devil hunting or get into selling herself to make the family's wants be met. Her life, her body, herself, a commodity gripped in the hands of this family. But she also genuinely cares about her siblings. She wants her siblings to get out, to escape this toxic environment. And so even though she feels stuck in the situation she's been forced into, she works, so maybe some of her siblings have the chance to escape, like her little brother going to college. Kobeni, despite being stripped of her agency, wanted to keep at least something private, to maintain some level of dignity, and had the strength of resolve where she would rather die than sell herself to another person. Now, let me just say, I think anyone has the right to sell their own body. It's extremely hard and respectable work. It can be dangerous, and I respect basically all the workers of the type. And you know what? If you enjoy what you do, that's an awesome thing too, regardless of what you're doing. People should know that I'm not condemning that in any way, and neither is the story or Fujimoto or this character of Kobeni. But in context of understanding Kobeni as her own person and her own perspective, it's maybe the last thing that she hasn't had taken from her. It's that final bit of privacy, of agency, the final thing that she gets to have a say in, and she says no. It shows a strength of resolve that even when pushed to her very end, she maintains the value of her right to life and dignity, and to remain with that respect, even if it's under a crushingly powerless small box of a life. Any choice she gets to keep living, she's going to take. Any freedom of choice she gets, any way out, she's committed. I feel like considering this in her action to immediately turn on Denji is a lot more dramatic in retrospect. She lives a life of constant suffering, kill or be killed. She didn't go through all that suffering just to die in the mouth of a horrific monster. So her resolve is very clear, and it's not just for her survival, but for the survival of her siblings to get out of that toxic situation. And let's be honest, this is a really unique resolve for an anime character in the broader landscape, and especially for a shonen series. Now, it's no secret that anime fans are horny and will sexualize anything that breathes, and a lot of things that don't. But it's also interesting to mention that Kobeni, despite being a consistently major character in Chainsaw Man, and Chainsaw Man being super rock and roll in terms of its aesthetics, is never sexualized. She's never seen in a state of undress, she's never nude, she's never made an innuendo or a crude joke of. She never so much as kisses anyone, really. She's always wearing fitted, but still loose, menswear, and also is not a particularly curvy or sexualized character in terms of her body. She's as unsexual as she can be, which sort of shows Fujimoto's respect for presenting her to the reader as she wants to be presented to the characters in the story. A lot of stories will present sexuality against the will of the character as narratively a bad thing, but then dress it up as something alluring and enticing for the viewer. Think any of David Cage's games like Heavy Rain for some obvious examples. Or think of any shonen when a female character gets groped without her consent or comfort. It's played as a joke, or worst, played as serious in the story, but is somehow still framed as tantalizing for the viewer. There's a cognitive dissonance. But not with Kobeni. Both in the narrative of the story and in the metatextual sense of how she's presented to a reader, Fujimoto keeps Kobeni as who she is. Someone who doesn't want to sell her sex appeal to anyone, to the point where she would stake her life on it. This meta-narrative and narrative cohesion is also consistent with the other female characters. Power thinks human sexuality is dumb drivel and doesn't care about social conventions, so she is presented suggestively in casual ways that sort of portray her own misunderstanding and lack of care. Makima sees sensuality as a way to make her do what she wants while asserting control, and is only seen sexually in that context via her own actions. Himeno does it for personal reasons, for push and pull, like a deal, and Reize uses it as a distraction and a manipulation. It's a surprisingly mature and respectful way of treating these characters within the story, but I think Kobeni is the most interesting due to the lack of focus on her sensuality in any clear ogling way at all. All the other female characters in Chainsaw Man interact with their perceived sexuality in active ways that reflect their characterization, and for Kobeni, it's never on the table for her, so it's never on the table for the story either. Her most identifying moments are action-oriented and character-important. Vague spoilers here, I really don't think it'll ruin anything, but she saves Denji's life in one arc, and in a later one, she gives him the talk that he needs to give him the strength to confront the biggest threat in the manga. She's super fundamental to major aspects of the overall story. She's unbelievably instrumental despite her goofy, despair-ridden comical character flaws. She's a complex character who, despite her anxiety and crippling weakness, always does what needs to be done and never forgets why she does it, never lets herself become a tool in someone else's story, and always takes any ounce of dignity that she's given, despite still being a total mess and often being put in humiliating and death-encroaching situations. It's a mix of humanity and principle. The famous dancing moment that is metastasized into 2 iterations of a meme at this point was something she was forced to do against her will so she wouldn't be brutally murdered. She's crying because her life is at risk and she feels humiliated. That panel became a understandably funny out-of-context meme, and then that got edited into other memes. Then the dance got taken to TikTok into a Kobeni-focused dance, and now that got taken to this cat ear dance meme, which in its final iteration no longer involves Kobeni at all anymore. The song is unrelated, the dance is different, the cat ears have nothing to do with it, and Kobeni isn't even in most iterations of the meme. The meme metastasizing to do involves Kobeni. Now that got taken to this cat ear dance, taken to TikTok into a Kobeni, and then humiliated.
Give it.
That panel became a understandably funny out-of-context meme, and then that got edited into other memes. Then the dance got taken to TikTok into a Kobeni-focused dance, and now that got taken to this cat ear dance meme, which in its final iteration no longer involves Kobeni at all anymore. The song is unrelated, the dance is different, the cat ears have nothing to do with it, and Kobeni isn't even in most iterations of the meme. The meme metastasized so far past the original thing that not a single trait of the original is present in its most recent iterations. So it makes sense why people would be confused as who Kobeni is, seeing her debut as this slobbering mess. Her devil, being a secret, got turned into the Toppy Devil meme, which I can only imagine is due to the amount of sweat and nervousness she's always displaying when she shows up. But once again, it ignores everything about her character to a level of parody where the character being memed or cosplayed is only an aesthetic. It's almost as if 2 separate Kobeni characters exist, one in the mind of the fandom, and one in the mind of the story. That being said, the memes are mostly funny. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, why are the memes not accurate? But more so just interested in how a meme can metastasize so far away from its original concept where it no longer even resembles anything it originally could be described as. I mean, let's face it. When people see cute anime girl, they just sort of jump on the train. And hey, she's cute, and she's not real. Do whatever you want with the character design. It's a banger character design. No one is wrong for misrepresenting her in this way. It's the norm for anime characters to be put through the ringer like this. But in context of Kobeni, there's some extreme dissonance between a character literally willing to die before letting themselves be sexualized, and a community so willing to sexualize her that nothing of her original character is carried over into her broader fandom appearances, other than, teehee, she's so nervous. If you were an anime only annoyed at Kobeni, please stick it out. She gets her times to shine as the show will go on. And anyone angry that she's not actually the toppy nervous uwu girl, sorry. Kobeni is not your waifu. But she is mine. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope this gave anime-onlys, or people interested in fan flanderization, something interesting to think about. If anyone looks like Kobeni, please DM me on Twitter, and keep all fan art coming too, because it's still funny out of context. Once again, this video is about the dissonance between the character of Kobeni and the many levels of flanderization Kobeni has gone through in fan communities that will make her not even resemble the original character. The nature of that process. If you want more videos like this, subscribe and comment. And if you want to talk about this more in depth,
Ang pang-araw-araw grocery brands mo? Pinagsama-sama na sa Last Mall Daily. Tipid ka sa all-in-one shipping fee. Mabilis dumating dahil sa all-in-one delivery. Switch na sa Last Mall Daily.
They say that before you go out to seek your revenge, you should dig 2 graves. This is a pretty common proverb found in many different cultures and worded a number of different ways and attributed to a number of different people. But all of them carry the same meaning. Revenge is much like a disease. It could end up consuming the lives of not only those targeted by it, but those who seek it as well. Thus, the second grave is always intended for the revenger, as it is their actions that tend to end up biting them in the end, especially so if the revenge ends up hollow. And if there was one man befitting of this quote more than anyone else, it's the tattered, troubled, top-knot, tenacious tamer tangled in treacherous turmoil, Aki Hayakawa. Now this video will contain full series spoilers for the entirety of Chainsaw Man Part 1, so if you want to avoid spoilers, you have been warned. Aki Hayakawa is the deuteragonist of the main story of Chainsaw Man, and a member of the Tokyo Public Safety Devil Hunter Committee, specifically part of the Special Division 4 headed by Makima. He is a stoic man who joined the committee with a desire shared by many of his peers, to seek out and claim revenge on the Gun Devil, a terrifying force which appeared one day and wiped out 1.2 million people in the span of 5 minutes, with Aki's family being part of those casualties. Though unlike the others who over time became disillusioned with their revenge, Aki never looked at himself in an objective way, and this always allowed him to see himself as more of a means to an end. And it's thanks to this commitment that he wound up stumbling down a rabbit hole of failure that he could never escape from. Though before we get too into that, let's discuss the meaning behind his name and design. Aki Hayakawa's name is something that was directly tied into Fujimoto's plans for the character's future in the planning stages of Chainsaw Man. Though before I discuss his given name, which is the most important of the two, I want to mention first his family name, Hayakawa, which is a rather common name in Japan. The name itself is translated roughly to fast or early river, but his name is also likely in reference to the famous figure of the Sengoku period, Lady Hayakawa, a daughter of a Hojo clan daimyo, Hojo Ujiyasu. She is famous for her role in the Koso-sun Triple Alliance, which reunited together 3 major clans in the Sengoku era into one faction. And in a similar way in Chainsaw Man, Hayakawa was the foundation which Makima used to create Denji a new family, with Denji even taking the Hayakawa last name on at the end of the series. Then we reach his given name, Aki, which has no inherent meaning in Japanese, but during Jump Festa 2021, in an interview with Tatsuki Fujimoto, Aki's name selection process was discussed. The name was selected to coincide with his relationship to the Gundam, as Aki's name was designed to sound similar to the Soviet Union's own famous Kalashnikov, better known as the AK-47, which is actually so popular that out of the estimated 500 million firearms worldwide, roughly 100 million of them are part of the Kalashnikov family, and 75 million of those are specifically AK-47s. The rifle is very well known for its reliability, being able to function in just about any of the harshest conditions out there, which matches up very well with Aki's own role, as no matter the sacrifice, as long as it helps him achieve his goal, Aki is willing to take the hit. And at the beginning of the series, he kind of fits the aspect of being more of a tool than a person, similar to a firearm. And this connection to guns and the Gun Devil also comes up in his character design, as Aki's most distinct feature is his top-knot haircut, which was chosen by Fujimoto to reference the firing hammer of a handgun. And this is because, since the onset of his character, Aki was doomed to fall and become the gun fiend, though other elements of his character also tie into this fated connection as well, such as some of the devil contracts that he has, which, speaking of, Aki has made quite a few throughout the series, with us being able to see a few of those contracts be forged as the plot progresses. But first, let's discuss the two he had since the very beginning, starting first with his first contract shown, the Fox Devil. With the simple cost of Aki allowing the Fox Devil to feed on small parts of his body, the Devil will allow Aki to use the cone summoning technique. How this works is Aki can form a shadow puppet hand sign in the shape of a fox head and speak out loud the word cone. And in that moment, anything Aki can see within the gaps of his hand sign instantly are bitten by a massive Fox Devil. Following this, the Fox Devil can then consume whatever is in its mouth if allowed. Though, if the target is larger than the Fox Devil, then it will simply be cut into when it bites down, severing parts of the body and even damaging structures. Around it, but in mouth if allowed. Though, if the target is larger than the Fox Devil, then it will simply be cut into when it bites down, severing parts of the body and even damaging structures around it. But it should be stated that the Fox Devil isn't particularly powerful, and if used on stronger devils, it's possible that it will have little to no effect or be unable to consume their target. Or worse, they could cut their way out of the Fox Devil's mouth, which careless use of its power like this can cause the Fox Devil to break its contract with you. As shown during careless use of its power like this, or worse, they could cut their way out of the Fox Devil's mouth, which careless use of its power like this can cause the Fox Devil to break its contract with you, as shown during the recovery period after the initial fight with the Katana Man. Now this devil is pretty clearly a direct reference to the famous Kitsune of Japanese mythology, with them being powerful shapeshifters which can take on size changing and also being very finicky, trying to avoid any real danger if possible. Along with this, the command word Kon, which is used to summon the Fox Devil, is just the Japanese onomatopoeia for the sound a fox makes. It's essentially just a fox bark. Though one very interesting aspect of this is that the attack debuted the same day that Jujutsu Kaisen's Divine Dog Totality technique debuted, which in Japanese that translates to Divine Dog Kon. Though this is just a happy little coincidence. Also, according to the anime PV for Chainsaw Man, the colors of the Fox Devil are actually very close to a Tenko, or Celestial Fox, which legends say are what happens to a Kitsune when it reaches 1,000 years of age, changing its shape and becoming a golden or white fox color. It's also said that one of the ways that these Kitsune can gain more knowledge is by accidentally swallowing divine treasures or beings. This is likely the reason why the Fox Devil asks before it can swallow something, though besides the Fox Devil, Aki also has a contract with the Curse Devil, which has gifted him a nail-like sword in exchange for the condition that if he were to use its power, his lifespan would be reduced significantly, with the last time draining his life down to only 2 years. Though the reward is considered worth the risk, as how the weapon works is once positioned correctly, Aki calls out the command, fire, and then the finger of the Curse Devil will flick the back of the sword, driving it into his target. And if this action is repeated 3 times in succession, the Curse Devil will fully appear and grapple the target, inflicting a severe wound onto them that will kill them. Though sadly, this doesn't prevent regeneration, so its skills are rather misrepresented in the story of Chainsaw Man, as the 2 times the Curse Devil is used in the series, it's on immortal beings, which really underplays the power of this devil. But Himeno does give us a bit of perspective, as she says that if Aki were to use the sword on the Infinity Devil, then they would be able to escape its trap. Now, while this devil is clearly based on Ushi no Takimari, or the Straw Doll cursing technique, with the multiple hit requirement being part of the Oshi no Takimari process, which requires the person to repeat the ritual 7 times before it takes effect, but also the process in which Aki uses this ties it into his gun influence as well, as not only does he drive the nail sword into his targets like a bullet, but he also calls out fire beforehand, much like firing a gun. The finger of the Cursed Devil also acts as a hammer in this way, which is fitting given that, as I mentioned before, Aki's design is meant to reflect that of a gun's hammer. And these 2 devil contracts actually reflect the type of person that Aki was at the beginning of the series, with the Fox Devil being in relation to Kitsune's being tied to Aki's goal of defeating the Gun Devil, and how it's clear that he would be cut short before he would ever reach that point, as most Kitsunes never get to ascend to becoming a Tenko in the end, as they usually end up dying in a calamity that occurs every 100 years, which would grant them a tail if they survive. Along with this, the Cursed Devil is based on an ancient revenge ritual, which matches up well with Aki's obsession with revenge, and how it almost literally consumed his entire life, leaving him with only 2 years left to live, and it's because of this obsession with revenge that Aki ends up with another dead family. This, of course, being Himeno of Division 4. The assigned buddy of Aki, Himeno was a tragic survivor, going through 5 partners before eventually having Aki assigned to her, her only requirement for him being that he wouldn't die like the rest. And together, the 2 grew rather close, Aki picking up habits for her like smoking, and he even defended her honor when he felt like she was wrong. To outsiders, they must have seemed like lovers, Denji even bringing up how they casually share a cigarette between each other like an indirect kiss. But to Himeno's own dismay, Aki never saw it this way, and he never realized how she truly felt about him until it was too late, as saw up habits for her like smoking. The buddy of Aki, Himeno was a tragic survivor, going through 5 partners before eventually having Aki assigned to her, her only requirement for him being that he wouldn't die like the rest. And together, the 2 grew rather close, Aki picking up habits for her like smoking, and he even defended her honor when he felt like she was wrong. To outsiders, they must have seemed like lovers, Denji even bringing up how they casually share a cigarette between each other like an indirect kiss. But to Himeno's own dismay, Aki never saw it this way, and he never realized how she truly felt about him until it was too late, as no matter how much she offered to take him away, become a residential hunter, and live a calm and easy life, he refused, set in his ways of hunting the Gun Devil to his grave, which drove Himeno to follow him and try to protect him, ultimately leading to her own somewhat selfish sacrifice to save him, though I'll discuss her more in depth in the future. And in realizing that he had failed another family, and now had a severely limited life, Aki realized that the Cursed Devil's sword was too risky to use, and he would need to forge contracts with newer, stronger devils if he wanted to continue his work. With the first, ironically, being the Future Devil, a seemingly insane figure who takes the appearance of a half-tree creature who endlessly is excited about the future. The process to forge a contract with him is actually rather simple. You place your head inside the chest of the tree so it can read your future, and depending on how excited it is by the tragedy that will come, it will make you an offer. For some, they lost one of their 5 senses, while others paid half their lifespan. Though for Aki, he only had to welcome the Future Devil to live within his right eye so that it could witness firsthand how he will die in the worst way possible. Though, the Future Devil isn't being entirely honest here. Though to Aki, he didn't care about this cost, and in exchange, he gained the ability of Future Sight, which he can use freely without having to pay any extra cost to the Future Devil. This allows him to see a few seconds into the future and predict his enemy's oncoming attacks. And with this ability, he was actually able to keep up with hybrids like the Bomb Devil. Now, the design of the Future Devil reminds me actually a bit of Lilith from Evangelion, which could be intentional, as Fujimoto has listed Eva as one of the memorable series he watched growing up. Though the most important part about the Future Devil is, with this contract also came a change in Aki's character, as with him taking in the Future Devil, it was seen as him trying to take control of his future and steer it in a better direction, starting first, of course, by putting himself first. first, trying to be more than just a tool, seen best in the scene where he decides to quit smoking. Also a neat detail, the eye in which the future devil inhabits is the same eye that Himeno lost in her contract with the ghost devil. Though without his cursed devil sword, he would need something else to fight devils with, and this is where his final contract and new partner come into play, this being the Angel Devil, also referred to as Angel, who forges Aki a new katana with his ability Life Force weapon creation. This allows Aki to cut up even those without physical bodies like the Ghost Devil. And though this partnership started out rocky, with Aki even considering Angel to be just another devil, eventually their partnership would blossom into a close friendship, as Angel began to show interest and concern in Aki's limited lifespan, along with recounting Aesop's fables to him about the country mouse and city mouse, which is not only the story that Aki's parents was reading to his brother the day that he died, but also seems to directly relate to his and Himeno's relationship, with Aki being the city mouse, someone who's willing to put their life in danger in order to get greater rewards, where Himeno was clearly a country mouse living a city life. She wanted nothing more but to take Aki out of danger and retire safe and happy outside in the country. Angel himself is also a country mouse as well, but this time he seems to have been forced into the position of a city mouse with no hope of escape. And in a way, Aki likely viewed Angel the same way he viewed Power, Denji, and even Himeno when she was alive, a member of his family, someone he had to protect no matter what, be it blocking a fatal strike from Quan Chi or using the limited time he has left to prevent an unnecessary casualty, because Aki couldn't stand to see his family broken apart for a third time.
The Sweetwater mushroom has a brown conical cap and a white body. Consuming it may induce delirium.
If you weren't tied to it somewhere far away from me. I'm sick and tired of people dying on me, right before my eyes.
Which is probably one of the most notable evolutions about Aki's character, because at the beginning of Chainsaw Man, he was rather cold towards devils, wanting to inflict as much pain as possible onto them, and it's sort of understandable, as his family was killed right before his eyes by one of the biggest devil attacks in recorded human history. Though, as he warms up to Denji, Power, and even Angel, he begins to not only see them as more than just devils, but starts to reflect Himeno more and more. He wants to ensure that his family won't die, as he knows his time is limited, by either saving up his money so that Denji and Power can live comfortably when he passes, or writing a letter of recommendation for Angel so that the committee won't execute him, and even pulling out of the raid against the Gun Devil. He has finally realized that revenge is a fruitless pursuit, but this realization came far too late, as in the following chapters, Aki's life begins to get shattered again and again, starting first by him learning that no matter what he does, he can't prevent Denji or Power by being drafted into the front lines against the Gun Devil. So, much like how Himeno had to stay around to protect him, he stays around to protect them. Then he learns not only has the Gun Devil already been defeated, it's been contained, and parts of its body have been scattered across the world. Essentially, Aki's entire motivation was for naught. All of his sacrifices and sleepless nights, all caused by an empty shadow. But not only that, the world governments, the ones that he has worked for so long, purposely kept this fact a secret from the public to drive up fear in the Gun Devil to increase its own strength. He's starting to realize that he can never get the revenge that he joined for. He wasted his life. Then following this, the future devil comes to inform Aki that not only is his end drawing near, but he and Power will both be killed by Denji's hands. The future he thought to have grasped and taken control of was really dragging him along for the ride. He was powerless, weak, and worst of all, a failure. He had failed to kill the Gun Devil. He had failed to save Himeno, and now he was going to fail a third time. So in the face of this insurmountable dread, like a scared child, Aki goes to the one person he believes could help him, Makima.
I spoke with the future devil,
Could be anyone
and
annoying.
I found out that my time is near. Whatever happens, I want Denji and
That's
Power
like 85 wins.
to survive. me happy. My brother's death was my fault. I want the strength to change things this time. Miss Makima, I'll make any contract with any devil. Please, help me.
Hayakawa. In that case, will you make a contract with me? If you'll give me all of you, I'll give you strength. Hayakawa, this is an order. Say you'll make a contract.
I'll make a contract.
And with this decision, Aki's whole arc comes to its completion, as he becomes the thing he hated most. Makima forcing the Gun Devil into him and forging the powerful Gun Fiend. The design of the Gun Fiend plays around with Aki's own design and the common understood designs of fiends, as it replaces his top knot with the hammer of a gun, and giving him a facial deformity of a 1911 barrel sticking out of his face. Along with this, the arm he lost in the Darkness Devil encounter is replaced with an M4 carbine. These guns were likely chosen over something like an AK-47 or a Makarov pistol, even though his namesake is Russian-based, because the Gun Devil parts that Makima fought that day were specifically employed by the United States. Thus, the weapons that Aki would grow are American-made and used, with the two weapons chosen being iconic of the country. Though, with that said, the Gun Fiend is significantly weaker than the Gun Devil, being unable to release the mass destruction that crippled the entire world. But even in this reduced power state, it can still level city blocks in a single blast. Along with this, like most other fiends, the power, speed, and durability of Aki are enhanced to superhuman levels, and he can even fire powerful blasts out of the barrel of either of his appendages. Though, as destructive as Aki is in this state, from his perspective, everything he sees is just one big game. A massive snowball fight where he can play to his heart's content, as his life has finally gotten fun, and the people finally are paying attention to him. Even Denji is here to play with him, but the more they pelted each other with snowballs, the more Denji began to cry, until Aki realized he didn't actually like snowball fights. And soon, Denji would vanish. He now realized that he wasn't playing snowball fights, he was waiting for his brother, and so they can finally finish that game of catch that got so rudely interrupted, while in reality, Aki is no more. Denji had dug his chainsaws through his chest and finally put an end to that snowball massacre, with the future devil watching on in gleeful delight, giving greater context to his contract. Aki didn't exactly die in the worst way possible for him, as in his death he was reunited with his brother in the afterlife. He felt joy for the first time in years. He even dragged the Gun Devil down with him in the process. It's actually the perfect self-sacrifice that he has always longed for, but he did die in the worst way possible for Denji. Aki is unsurprisingly the most popular character in Chainsaw Man, being placed both third and first place in Weekly Shonen Jump's popularity polls. His tragedy is delivered in slow motion and shows the ugly side to a quest for revenge, and how empty they tend to be. And he also acts as a rather good deconstruction of the archetypical Lancer character, as while being depicted as more motivated and serious than the main cast, with everything figured out. In reality, Aki is just as childish and lost as Denji, and this is likely because they share a similar design origin, this being Naoto Nandaba from FLCL. So, when describing Chainsaw Man to celebrate 3 million copies sold, Tatsuki Fujimoto called it a wicked or twisted FLCL, and this is clear in its themes, with both stories, as to put it simply, focusing on elements about maturity and growing into your own identity through outlandish visuals and supernatural entities. Along with this, characters in Chainsaw Man tend to mirror similar ones in FLCL, like how Makima is very heavily inspired by the space alien Hara Hara Harako. He even borrowed visual elements from FLCL, like the Easy Revenge cigarette being a direct reference to the Never Knows Best cigarettes smoked by Mamimi. In fact, let's talk about those really quick. The Easy Revenge cigarettes can actually be taken as a double meaning that correlates with Never Knows Best, as Mamimi is someone who doesn't really have a solid structure in her life. She never knows what's best for her. Himino is very similar to that. She lost her sense of self and chose to live a life of easy revenge, or only chasing things within your grasp, instead of those that are far off and distant. And she uses this cigarette as one final message to Aki to give up his life as a city mouse and take easy revenge and live a peaceful life. Also, speaking of Momimi, Naota and Momimi's relationship is actually rather similar to that of Himino and Aki's, with Momimi being this selfish, depressed truant, partly detached from the world that she's living in, and sometimes actively forcing herself onto Naota in a desperate attempt to rekindle the happiness that she had lost years ago. And they're constantly looking for someone to help them organize the chaos in their life. This is almost exactly how Himino views Aki. She wants to run away with him, not because he's someone special to her, but almost because he isn't. She viewed him as both cool and extremely normal, and she knows what happens to normal people in the Devil Hunter Committee. And thanks to Chainsaw Man's anime PV, we actually see that she fantasizes about a future together with him, and it being a very peaceful one. Though, like Naota and Mamimi's interactions, Aki is cold to these advances, and Himino doesn't have the control that she thought she had, as he doesn't view Himino as someone he could be with, but more as someone who is damaged and needs protection. And more specifically, in episode 5 of FLCL, Brittle Bullet, the two heavy reoccurring motifs of that episode are guns and Naota and Mamimi's relationship, demonstrating Mamimi's jealousy of Haruko, which in a similar way, Himino disliked Makima. Along with this, hearkening to Aki's gun motif, the Medical Mechanica mecha looking to escape through Naota's NO channel, was a hand-shaped mecha with each of its fingers wielding a different gun, which in some way reminds me of the Gun Devil, and is somewhat reinforced by the fact that it initially takes the form of a massive trigger sticking outside the back of the head of Naota, in a similar way to Aki in his gun fiend form. Finally, one of the major connections between Naota and Aki comes in their connection to baseball, as in FLCL, baseball is sort of elevated to this mythical sport. It's used in many analogies for maturity, and Naota's brother is someone so good at it that he was able to go to America and find a career doing it, which also can connect back to Aki, as he has a connection to his brother in the form of baseball, as he always wanted to play catch with his brother on the day that he died. Instead, he wasted their time together by taking his aggression out on his brother in a snowball fight, which is also likely the reason that Aki viewed everything as a snowball fight from within his gun fiend form. It's a way for him to childishly release the aggression that he has been storing within himself all that time. Aki is without a doubt one of Fujimoto's best characters. He not only demonstrates the danger of knowing too much, as every time Aki is privy to new information or the true nature of the world, it breaks him more and more. As Quan Chi puts it, ignorance is bliss in the world of Chainsaw Man, and Aki is anything but ignorant. Along with this, he's also used perfectly to capture the pointlessness of dedicating your life to revenge, as most, if not all of Aki's failures stems from him never trying to grow beyond the trauma that he faced as a child, and he would give up anything just to see that devil die, his lifespan or his body, but the moment that he realizes that he had to change, it was too late. Strike 3. He's out. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/MediNotTheBadGuy. And if you want to seek power that will allow you to strike down revenge upon those who have wronged you, well, you can do so by consuming a copy of Shimonetta, A Boring World with the Concept of Dirty Jokes Doesn't Exist at buyshimonetta.com.
Let's go, let's make it easy. GSM Blue Mojito. Tuloy-tuloy na ang kulitan with GSM Blue Kulitro. Choose GSM Blue Mojito, now in new Kulitro. Drink responsibly.
The devils of the world come into existence with their names already decided for them, and it is these names that tie themselves into the collective unconscious of humans, and thus the power of devils are dependent on the people's fear of their name. For example, the idea of coffee could create thoughts of being scalded or burnt, but not much worse than that. So, in turn, a coffee devil would be rather weak, but a car can generate deadly images of being run over or hit. Thus, the car devil would be pretty strong. But one devil whose strength has been built up since the majority of parts of Chainsaw Man is the big broken ballistic bullet bloat bundle, barbarically bringing bloodshed and battlefronts to bystanders, the Gun. We interrupt this national emergency to bring to you Dungeon Fighter Online is an action-packed hack-and-slash 2D MMORPG with retro pixel graphics and a ton of content to experience, such as partaking in raids and dungeons either online or with players from all across the world. Along with this, you can choose over 60 class advancements to help suit your playstyle, and like any true action game, Dungeon Fighter Online is lush with beautiful illustrations and animations for each class, as well as offering players complex combo systems that makes any playstyle pack a punch. And as of the most recent event, the level cap has been updated, growing from 100 to 110. And with these new levels comes new main storyline progress, as well as new areas and dungeons. Not to mention new level 105 epic equipment for you to obtain. Though, say you wanted to start playing now and experience this new content, well, Dungeon Fighter Online has thought of you as well, with the level 100 warm-up event that can help power level your character to 100, along with allowing you to get more rewards and high-level equipment, plus potions and upgrade tickets. It's basically everything you need for a new character. And to get an even better jumpstart, you can enter the code in the description below to receive 10 life tokens, 50 Remy sparkling touches, and the funky avatar set. So please, if anything I've said interests you here today, then give Dungeon Fighter Online a try by using my referral link below. Thank you to Dungeon Fighter Online for sponsoring this video. This video contains spoilers for Chainsaw Man up to the most recent arc in the manga. This includes Part 2. So if you want to avoid spoilers, you have been warned. The Gun Devil is one of the longest looming threats in the main story of Chainsaw Man, being established since Chapter 13 and continuing to exist as a background element in the story right up until Chapter 79, as well as being one of the major inciting incidents for a majority of the characters to become devil hunters in the first place, and it becoming somewhat of a career goal for most people in the business of devil hunting, ever since the gun made its presence known 13 years prior to the story's beginning. Though most hunters become disillusioned with the idea of taking it down after a few years in the business, while others stubbornly chase the gun without thinking much of their own life in the process. But before we get too into that, let's understand the meaning behind its name and design. So, the Gun Devil's name is pretty blunt and to the point, as they have no real identity outside of being the Gun Devil, as far as we know. They were given the name because they are the embodiment of the collective fear of guns created across the world, be it hoplophobia or the general mental images that guns generate just by existing. And they were assumedly created after an increase in the arms market due to the rise of devil attacks across the world, as people were buying them en masse to defend themselves, though, as a result, an equal rise in gun-related violent crime increased across the world, which the media spread like wildfire.
13 years ago, there was a time when the whole world tried to cash in on guns as a countermeasure against the devils. During that period, guns used in crimes and civil revolts increased. Every country's media ended up covering gun violence news heavily, and just when the fear of guns had risen around the world, there was a big terrorist attack involving guns in America. That same day, the Gun Devil appeared. November 18th, 10 a.m. The Gun Devil hit Japan for 26 seconds. Death toll, 57,912. United States, 124 seconds. Deaths, 548,012. Canada, 7 seconds. Deaths, 8,481. Hawaii, 0.4 seconds. Deaths, 780. China, 37 seconds. Deaths, 316,932. Soviet Union, 210 seconds. Deaths, 155,302. Mexico, 2 seconds. Deaths, 6,088. India, 15 seconds. Deaths, 29,950. In about 5 minutes, the Gun Devil killed almost 1.2 million people, and then fell off the face of the earth. To this day, it hasn't been seen since.
Now this ultimately caused a global-wide increase in the fear of guns, which all came to a head in November 18, as it was the spark that ignited explosive evolution for the Gun Devil, allowing it to fully take shape, and its design perfectly reflects its relation to the fear of guns, as well as other elements of their character. Starting first with the head of the Gun Devil being this massive skull with razor-sharp teeth all fused together with the slide and barrel of a hammerless M1911 handgun. The general shape and design of the Gun Devil skull, like most devils in the series, is inspired by Tsutomu Nihei's Abara and their Gono's transformations. Though, interestingly enough, according to Fujimoto, the head was originally going to be a revolver, but he opted out of that design decision to avoid being compared to the Yu-Gi-Oh card Revolver Dragon, also known as Barrel Dragon in the West, and is the boss monster of Bandit Keith, an ex-American champion who dies when his hand is forcibly changed into a gun by Pegasus after being caught, which, while likely coincidental, actually kinda works with how the Gun Devil is handled in the series itself. So I can't say if it was intentionally influential, but I thought I would mention it. Another influence that I assume went into the design of the Gun Devil was the major medical mechanica threat of Fooly Cooly Episode 5, Brittle Bullet. This being a massive hand machine with 5 individual arms, all armed with different massive firearms. Fights with Haruko, one of the major influences for Makima, and causes a massive amount of property damage to the city around them. And Fujimoto has mentioned before that Chainsaw Man is inspired by Fooly Cooly. Now, the arms of the Gun Devil